If you are thinking about starting or having or growing a business in relation to your poetry or art, one thing that can make that process a little bit easier and faster is by considering some trends that are happening kind of in the cultural zeitgeist, kind of just the attitude, the perceptions, the movements that are happening on a cultural level where you are. And so today we're going to be talking about 10 different trends that I'm seeing that maybe you can take advantage of as you grow that business. Good morning, guys. Good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to Arts and Offers. This is the video podcast where we are looking at that bridge between poetry and art and business to guide you in this process. There's me. Hello, my name is Jeff.
I'm Matthias.
Happy 2026.
It's 2020. It's been a full year. Well, it's not been a full year. It's been a year though.
It's been a year. It has been a year.
I feel like it's always funny because like over the winter break, or not over the winter break, like over like the Christmas to kind of like New Year's like break, there's because the stuff that I like work in is like I'm getting like maybe like equipment and like kind of like upgrading for the year. So I always feel like going into the next year, I feel kind of like, I don't want to say like rejuvenated, but like really re-energized to like really kind of come into the year with some like new goals and some new stuff that I really want to work on. I don't know. What do they call those? Resolutions?
Resolutions. Yeah.
Something like that. Did you make any resolutions for the year?
Yes. So is this something I actually talked a little bit about on the channel, on the socials and things like that? So the big thing Diverse is doing this year is I call it the 2026 50,000. So I'm going to be working with some small groups, small cohorts of poets throughout the year on 4-month modules. And the goal is to, by the end of the year, have helped all the poets combined reached about $50,000 worth of poetry-based income.
That's dope. So what about 2026 or what about this year made you want to like push that? Because it's a big goal. That's it's like, big, you know, when you say 50,000, like it's 50,000 like each?
No.
Okay.
That's right now. I mean, that's it.
But yeah, no, collectively. Okay, cool. So, like, what about this year made you want to? Because I mean, that's huge, right? But what about 2026 made you want to push forward with like such a big goal?
Right. So I was thinking about the goals for last year, and most of them I was able to hit. Not all of them. Like I wanted to get one more book project out. We got 2 out, which is good. The third, just things happen, you know. But that's the reason you make big goals. So like even if you don't hit them, like you're still 2 book projects out, and you're like I'll take. But one of them, was getting space and like hosting different sorts of events, and a lot of the things, I was able to accomplish well before the year was actually out. So I wanted to think about a goal that was a little bit more challenging, and that was also one that could incorporate more people, right? So it's a community goal, because I think, again, like I'm of the belief that business is a form of art in an altruistic mode, because I think a lot of times when we create art, we create for ourselves. But if you create a business, in order for that business to survive, you have to obsess over other people. I can make art for myself and check, it's done, it's good. But for a business to survive, it literally has to be about impacting other people's lives to help them get what they want. So when I say that's why I view business as a form of altruism for art, this is one way that we can do that. It's not just about bringing in, using poetry as a vehicle for income for me, because I could just stop there. I already do it. But, we're really trying to change the narrative around poetry. And I think that this is the branch that can do that, because once we can start getting people to see that, we actually can use poetry to do something valuable. Maybe I can do that on my own, so it's just about changing the mindset a little bit at a time, because it's hard to have a dramatic shift in a short amount of time. but like we can kind of just like chip at it a little bit here, a little bit there, so that way a couple people in the city can say, oh yeah, like they were actually able to bring in, some sizable income while you doing their art.
Yeah, and I like this idea of you set these really big goals because like the reason why you set a big goal is because if you set like a smaller goal and you hit it, it's like, oh, like
Yeah.
what did you do? But if you set a really large goal and you miss it, you probably exhaust like the smaller goals that you could have had in that space. And I think about how as artists, like at the end of the year, when you're reflecting on, like, I know a lot of times for me when I'm reflecting on what I've done this year and the things that like I wanted to do throughout the year, I'm never upset with the thought of, man, like I set out too many things for myself and like I should like draw back. Like I don't think I've ever went into the next year being like, man, I should slow down or I should put less things on the table, like, so I can actually hit them. For me, I'm always thinking like, I probably don't hit every one of my goals, but I also, make goals that feel like they probably are not attainable. They feel like, I'm going to set them out. I'm going to set out to do them. But like in any other circumstance, like I'm doing them with the hope that by a miracle they're attainable this year. But if not, then like I understand. So yeah, I really like that idea and I think that's like something a lot of artists, a past version of myself, like even can really learn from and like really like pick that up is like, don't be afraid to really make the big goals and put the big goals on your vision boards, because 2026 you have like 99% of the year to go. And so like whatever goal that you really want to achieve or whatever thing that you really want to do with your art career for this year, it's like you have most of this time to put pressure to it.
But there's also some urgency to it. $50,000 combined through poetry-based projects, no grants, no nonprofits, no donors. That's not what this is about. So, a year to create a product or offer, get it out into the world, and get people excited about it. That's not a lot of time.
Yeah.
It's a year to get that done is not a lot, and so I think when you're setting goals. Like what I tell my communication students a lot of times is like, it's not about the actual goal itself. It's about who you become to achieve the goal. Because right now, like if you want to be like a millionaire based on your art, who you are right now needs to change, because it would have happened by now otherwise. So you literally have to become a different person. So picking the goal that helps you become the person that you want to become is the bigger thing. We're worried about the process, not necessarily the result.
I really love that. I'm like, even just thinking about, there was this interview, and I think it's in his book, but I got it from this interview that Will Smith did, I think like a year ago. He did on his radio show, and he was just like, he was talking about his son. His son like brought home, and like his son was like a C student, but he was a B student, and he's been a B student pretty much his entire life. You know what I mean? Like he said like his son is like in high school or something at this time. Like my son's been a B student pretty much his entire life, like a solidly B, like a B, maybe lower B sometimes, but like a B student pretty much his whole life. And like his son was, I can't remember what the opportunity was, but there's some kind of opportunity, and his son was just like, okay, I can just, next week I'll just work a little bit harder and I'll be an A student. And Will Smith was like, no, his dad was like, and mind you, this is his son. He's like, no, you will not. Like you don't know the difference of like your habits and your friendship groups and like your study. Like you don't know what that difference is between a B student and an A student. To be a consistently A student, to be a consistently, like every single time you're turning in a paper, you're turning in a test, you're giving an oral exam, like every one of those things to be A level quality, like it's much more difficult than you're giving it credit for, and it kind of and then to be able to do that kind of not even on autopilot, but that just to be how you operate, like the way that you operate, the way that you are a student is an A student. And so I think about that just like in the context of what you're saying now, just like this idea that, you know, if you could have been the kind of person that, you know, I don't know, was a cohort of how many people are going to be in the cohort?
The first cohort, I'm thinking somewhere around maybe 3 to 4.
3 to 4. So $50,000 between 4 people. It, you know, even if you are, what is that, 13.5? Yeah. but like when it's somewhere in the averages, but like just this idea that you know, you as a 12.5, that's ours. Sorry. But just you as like an artist, if you are going from, hey, I'm just kind of taking things as they come, and maybe I get an opportunity here, maybe I get an opportunity here, but it's all coming to me. I'm not actually hunting. I'm not actually kind of going out for it. To go from that to a person that's like, at the beginning of the year, I got to make $12,500 off of my art. Like that's a different mindset. That is a different person. You know what I mean? That person looks at like their work ethic around their art is different. The work ethic around their free time is that that's the real, like, you know, like your thought process around what you believe like free time is, and what you believe that like kind of relaxing and stuff like that is. So yeah, like I'm excited to see kind of what the cohorts churn out.
We'll see.
Because
we'll
see. Should be fun.
How about for yourself? Any big goal 2026?
So my big goal right now is so I have a couple. I am in the process of writing a feature film.
Let's go.
Which will be like, if it goes the way that I believe it will go, then it should be a feature film. It'll be my first feature film project. And my goal is by June to have the first draft of it completed. And then I'm going to be, after the first draft of it is completed, I'll like send it out to like just like filmmakers and stuff like that. Like for like that I trust in that space for like edits and stuff like that, and their perspective and stuff like that. And then I'll go in and I'll like kind of do a couple drafts. And right now the goal is by the end of the year to have a finished short film script or a finished feature film script that I will be in 2027 shopping around for a couple festivals. And it's kind of, so there's like some film festivals that are all about like just screenplays, right? So like there is actually one in Cincinnati that I'm trying to get a film in, like a short film in right now for. And the one that's in Cincinnati, essentially you can read from your screenplay, and then like people, that's like a lot of, when it comes to like anticipation and stuff like that around your screenplay, comes from people being able to see like, oh, I saw an excerpt of that, I really want to get involved. Like, and that's how you get like actors and stuff like that a lot of times too. Outside of that, I do have a website. It's not live. It's not okay. There's some things I'm trying to tight, because like I'm just tidying up. But okay. It is for much further progress than before. And then, so yeah, what was those two? Me and Ajane are working on a film project that we like June 18th. It has to be completed by June 18th. It doesn't have to be necessarily completed by June 18th. Like there's not like or it gets deleted, but right. It has to be by June 18th for a festival that we are trying to submit to. And then outside of that, I actually took a page from kind of your book when it comes to like being like thinking about like how to make money from filmmaking. And I think probably the most deliberate way for me is like through screening fees. And so essentially, if a film, you as a filmmaker, there's very rare instances where it's like you should be ever paying to have your film screened anywhere. Like I would not. There is like one really prestigious like thing that like you have to pay in order for you pay for your film to be screened, but that's like those are films that are like way out of my budget currently. Those are like you're like $250,000 for it to be screened in this place. Like for the foreign press, this is a lot of stuff. But yeah, like the typical screening fee, like, and this is where like festivals are paying you to screen your film, is like it can range. So there's like some that's like as low as like $50, and there's some that are as high as like $3,000, $3,500, kind of in the range of the films that I'd be submitting to. So my goal is to hit $10,000 in screening fees across all of my films this year. And that's not like, so, and that goal is really kind of associated with what that means as far as like where my film was screened. Because, you know, naturally the higher up that screening fee is, it's like the more prestigious, I would say, the film festival that you had it screened at, and you know who's there and who's watching and things like that. So really, that as far as that number is concerned, it's like just the best correlation that I can have to the exposure for my films and where I can make those kind of contacts. So yeah,
okay. A lot of income-based projects, which is great. That's the movement. So I think considering that, it leads to things that can be helpful for our central discussion today. So again, we're talking about trends. What are things that are happening in the world, in the culture, in the city, in the wherever it is that we are? What's kind of happening that we can use as leverage? This is something that in our book club, the Creative Companionship, the book we're looking at right now is Marty Neumeier's Zag. And this is one of the checkpoints that he mentions that I think is really helpful. And I want to dive deeper on is this idea of trend surfing, finding a trend, and then you can take advantage of it in terms of your marketing, in terms of your messaging, in terms of your posting, in terms of even what you design to need. Okay, so I have 10. Obviously, there's others, but these are ones that just to kind of be thinking off of if you're looking to get some examples that maybe you can think about in terms of creating your own creative business. The very first one probably is not going to be very surprising. And some of these also reference each other to a degree. First one is AI, artificial intelligence. This is a word that we're going to be throwing around probably for the rest of our lives to some degree.
Until it takes over.
Right. As long as we're allowed to say it. Yeah. With AI, we're going to see increased use of it. And with that increased use, we're also going to see increased pushback. So probably the one of the easiest ways right now to differentiate yourself is to put your position out there on where you stand on AI. Pro AI, against AI. You can niche down in terms of like what aspects of AI, like you be pro AI for administrative tasks, anti AI for artistic creation or things like that. Whatever the stance is. You know, at the Verses, I can tell you that I don't use AI for writing poems. I don't use AI for generating scripts for videos. I use AI to help a little bit with thumbnails. I use AI for sharpening some images. I use AI for summarizing other videos and things like that. And for kind of like going deeper on topics, like kind of debating with the AI and kind of like talking through ideas and formulas, trying to find holes in arguments, pushback, some like the logic type of stuff, you know. So I'm not, in terms of a lot of the artists in poetry, see, I'm not as against AI as I see some people are. I'm also, again, you know, in terms of actually writing the poems, that's me, you know.
Yeah.
I'm okay with asking AI like, hey, here's a poem, here's what I think the stakes are. Where are holes in the logic of this speaker? You know, I guess like trying to see weaknesses inside of a poem in terms of like the logic. It's not something I've done a lot of, but it's something that I wouldn't be opposed to. I also think from a workshop perspective, using AI for the creation of very specific examples. Like, for instance, if I want, let's say I'm doing a workshop on like poem editing and I want to help poets to strengthen a specific skill. I don't just want to take one of their poems and be like, "Hey, look, this is a weak poem. And how can we make it?" It's like it's a harmless. No one's attached to the poem, and we can change it. We be like, okay, so we have this baseline. How do we amplify the stakes there? How would we change the metaphor? How would we change the emotion and things like that? So I think as a baseline for exercises, it can be helpful in that aim.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I don't know. I think that my relationship to AI is maybe more contentious, and maybe I think that when it comes, because okay, I would say in the film space, there's a lot of
film is going to be wild because
AI
like
creators,
people are going to be like, I need an explosion.
Yeah. The thing is, like, okay, so I think about something like Michael Bay. Like if you're a lot of Michael Bay's, like Michael Bay and I would say somebody like Spike Lee kind of exist on like two different ends of the spectrum when it comes to like
like
practicality of their effect.
Like
you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, if you are somebody that is making us like, and that's most I would say this, most filmmakers, as far as the technology that they have constant access and deployment with, it's going to be closer to Spike than it's going to be to Michael Bay. Like
until
Michael
today. To a degree.
We're
not there yet, but it's like if I
think
wanted to make Transformers, I could make a 30-second Transformers thing with a lot of prompts.
Yeah, okay.
But go on.
So I think that practicality. I try to. I'll say I stay away from AI.
Yeah.
More so because I'm like, I don't know. I think that how would I say this? I think that when I think of like filmmakers that I really love and I think about filmmaking that I really love, it's really a lot of it is the same thing as like, I remember we did like the thing with like poetry where we were like trying to figure out which one of these
we should probably do an update on that.
We should. But I was like thinking about it, like I think when I'm watching somebody act and I'm watching like an actor really kind of deliver on the scene, like if it's AI, I can tell. But not only can I tell, but it's like there's like, I don't want to say it's soulless, but it's just there's something that's like not necessarily connecting, and that connection is like a human interaction. And I think especially when it comes into the filmmaking space, I'm like, if whatever beast that you're feeding, even if you're not feeding it on the terms that you are trying to exist, like it's still like I'm still feeding it. You know what I mean? And so like it's getting stronger. Mm-hmm. Even if it's on the side. And so, yeah. So all just to say that I think that maybe I stay a little bit away from AI, but I think that there is a realm where like AI is incredibly useful. I was like, there was I think it was like a conference, but it was like an online film conference, and like essentially like you log into this, like it wasn't Zoom, it was like a different platform, but you log into the platform and then they show you the films and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then people can like talk and break down films and stuff like that. It was pretty chill. But one of the filmmakers, I think she was like going blind. She was like, it was like kind of close to like kind of going blind. And I know she had like assistant, like something with AI was able to like assist her in kind of like understanding and comprehending kind of like the films and stuff like that. I'm not sure exactly what function, but just to say, like, I understand that there is utility with AI, and like there would have to be, because trillions of dollars are going into it. So it's like, if there wasn't utility, then there's not like anybody that's using it. But I do think that like, it's gonna get kind of weird in the film space, I think, in the near future, probably in the near current to a degree. But yeah, there's definitely some utility in that. And it's also not something that I think you should, as an artist, disregard completely.
That's probably the most dangerous.
Yeah, like it's almost like, if you are a person that makes horse and buggies, and that's your entire living, and then somebody is like, hey, have you heard of the car? Like the car just got invented, and you just trying to pretend like the car does not exist. Like you might be you don't even know like the battlegrounds are shifting beneath you. So yeah.
Or I think of like when Excel first came out for like accountants and things like that. Like if you're like, oh, I'm just gonna do everything, all my bookkeeping by hand, versus someone else. I mean, that's the thing, because if you lose to AI, you're not really losing to AI. You're losing to someone who's using AI. So it's like you're not doing it, but
for
someone
now,
else, for the moment, yeah. So you gotta. It's here, so I'm not saying you have to use it, but I do think understanding it and understanding what people are doing with it, because I don't know. I'm of the persuasion that if you're afraid of AI, you should be. And if you're not afraid of AI, because the reality is that it doesn't necessarily have to be competing with what you do. It can be. If you're just viewing myself as I make movies and that's it, well, someone else can use AI to make movies. So that can be a tough fight. But if you have a specific angle with the movies, we talk about your and, like poetry and I'm a filmmaker and, like if you can lean into the and move towards your uniqueness. Again, what Marty Neumeyer calls like your zag, your differentiation, there really is no competition, So anyways, it's a trend. It's a big topic. It's not one that I'm expecting to tackle right now, but that is a trend. And
let's take the next 10 minutes to solve the AI problem.
Right, I think we can do it. I'm optimistic. It's a trend that maybe identifying your position on can draw people to you. It seems like in the artistic community, the real reaction is negative. So conversely, contrarian opinions can be ways to differentiate yourself. So if you can find a way to position yourself with AI in a positive way, and you can find that it's going to be a small community, because I think the arts community is really against it. But you don't need a lot of people. Maybe you just need 10 people that are like, what, I think AI is actually like a godsend for my art. If you can find some other people, everyone else may disagree with you, but it doesn't matter. If you just find the right people to agree with you on whatever your stance is with it, that might be enough for your own survival, if you're brave enough to take that position. Yeah. The second trend that I see happening is the movement away from over-polished production towards raw. It's interesting. So backstage, Matthias and I were talking about a new gimbal he got for video. If you don't know what a gimbal is, it helps you kind of like stabilize as you move around. One of the disadvantages, ironically, of a gimbal is it's too polished in some situations. Like if you're trying to do like a horror movie and you're trying to capture like the jitters of like someone running away, gimbal's not.
Yeah, well, because I think one of the things that is like a lot of people don't really know, or you don't know because you feel it, right? It's like you're very intuitive. Like the camera is a character. You know what I mean? So like as you are maneuvering like that, how you're seeing that world becomes like part of like how you're like feeling. So like like in a horror film, like if somebody's like walking and like you're also walking, like you're feeling like a person. I think probably one of the really kind of, I want to say like really leaps in filmmaking or in film just in general was the Blair Witch Project. Yeah, because like that was like that, it was like an experimental kind of film. Yeah. But it was also this like super experimental kind of film, and if like people like talk about it, like it's cursed now, but it's like so many films like after that took that first person almost like kind of narrative like cameraman and were like, okay, like we want to put the audience into the action, whereas I think the thing that you get, there's pluses and minuses. I think the thing that you get with the stabilizer is that you are able to kind of stay level and your cameraman's able to move, so like I'm able to kind of navigate this space without like, if I bump into something, then like now like you're distracted because I'm like, man, like the camera person bumped into something. But
naturally applying it more generally towards the trend. The gimbal is just one very, very specific example of going in. But
it's a gimbal.
It's the idea of like you look at like some commercials now on like TV and they're like movies. You know, like everything's
Yeah.
like hyper produced. And so I think one of the things you see now is that if you're on Instagram and something's like super polished, or if you're watching like YouTube video and it's super polished, you almost have like this corporate attachment to it. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is like big business. Like you almost kind of zone out. You don't take it as seriously. You know, it's like
Yeah.
permission to not care anymore. Versus if you see someone just like shooting a selfie on like their phone, they're like, hey guys, I'm here at the play. Like there's a rawness to it. And in fact, you're seeing larger companies lean into
Yeah.
those sorts of campaigns where, you know, finding like micro influencers to create ads for them, or, you know, or using less polished cameras or just phone cameras, you know, or things like that, including mistakes.
Yeah.
Those sorts of aspects. Shooting video like without makeup, you know, thank you. These sorts of things. So having experiences that cause people to, you're good. Taking off the polish, removing it, being a little more raw, being a bit more like hey, you're just having a conversation with your friends, you know. That's a trend that I think we're seeing people move towards, because people seem to trust that more for the moment than they do the, you know, have it using like your red cameras and stuff like that. You know?
Well, it breaks the immersion, right? So it's like, you know, if a lot of the stuff that we're watching, especially when it comes to like, I mean, if you take like network TV and like movies and stuff like that, like everything feels like super polished. Feels like, you know, they went over this one shot 1,000 times. They probably removed a couple things. They made something like really, really clean and clear. And so, and it's also, it's like, you know, the comedy that comes from like that, those unpolished kind of like, you know, just like we run and gun type things. It's like, again, we're breaking the immersion. We're taking away like all of the super, you know, smoothed out edges, and we're making it just like, oh, like we just put this thing out. I think it kind of breaks that immersion.
Yeah. It's like when The Office comes out and it doesn't have a laugh track, you know. It changes how you view laugh tracks, because now you're like a laugh track feels like so. It's really distracting.
There are still some sitcoms that do still use laugh tracks. But I think that like, I think The Office is probably it's not the first, but it's one of like it's probably
it made it
the
mainstream,
biggest, like the most mainstream like example of like, once you don't have the laugh track, now you notice the laugh track. Because before, I didn't even really notice the laugh track. I just laughed along with it. Now it's like now I'm aware. I'm too aware.
If you just see the color green for the first time, now you can't stop seeing it. Like it stands out. Like,
oh my god.
What
made you think of that? You've never seen the color green before.
Anyway, like it's,
I first saw green when I was 6. No, I can't stop seeing.
The next trend, so we talk about AI, authenticity versus in like raw experiences versus over polished experiences versus online. And I think this is again directly or indirectly impacted by AI. As AI becomes more dominant, and as I'll give an example. Like when I'm on Reddit, I check Reddit maybe like once or twice a day, and one of the Reddits I see is like there's an AI Reddit. Like, is this real or AI? And it's just people posting pictures or videos and then asking each other, is this AI or is this real? And that's the whole thing. It's like people are having debates about something they're seeing, and is this an actual thing or a generated thing? People aren't trusting what they're finding online, which on the one hand is actually probably a really good thing, you know? But the reality is, as this becomes even more prevalent, I forget, like YouTube and Google have, you know, research about how much of the content that's posted online nowadays is AI created versus real. And it's, you know, the vast majority of things now are AI.
Yeah.
So as people lose faith in the things that they encounter online, I think you're seeing people finding a desire, a thirst for real connection, and the only way you for the moment can experience that most genuinely is through actual experiences. So a trend that you can capitalize on potentially is, how can you take whatever it is that you create around your art and make it something that people experience in person?
Yeah, I mean that's 100%. You know what? I think because one of the things that we were talking about before, and like this was like a couple years ago when we were like still potting, right? But we were talking about like the podcast and being able to bring people like into the podcast and like being able to bring like audience and stuff and like that into the podcast. And I really thought about that in the context of, I think when you did your book release, because it was like 3 of us were having like a conversation, but then there's like this group of people that was just kind of like watching the conversation like happen. And I'm just like, that's like a way that you're able to like kind of translate something that it could have just been a podcast that we're just talking about books, like talking about your book releasing, but it was like you're inviting them into the conversation.
And then also the fact, this is why I think also having production of that is really helpful now too, especially now because it's only going to get harder to have that genuine feel. So again, with the verses, doing things in person but having them as recorded things, like the reality show, like our podcast and conversations we have, like shows we do and things, recording it but then putting it online, so then people start building that trust, like, oh, even when they post stuff online, I know it really happened.
Yeah.
But you kind of got to do that soon because eventually people are going to doubt everything. So if you never have that chance to develop that trust with people, well, then people aren't going to ever have it for you. So I think now 2026 is the year you really want to try to be having in-person things, producing them, putting them out even online, so people associate you like you're the person that does in-person events and produces them.
Yeah. And it's also, I think there's a level of like commentary even that because it's not even just establishing like what you look like and like your set and your production, it's also establishing like your voice and your opinions and your like kind of view on the world. There is, and it's like a lot. So I watch a lot of like anime and stuff like that, and part of like the anime community are like YouTube creators that they'll talk about like One Piece, right? And they'll be really, really like in the One Piece world, and so they'll make videos that are like 4, maybe 5 minutes of just breaking down one character's powers, one character's origins and stuff like that. And what I started seeing really last year is like AI channels literally like, and the thing is like AI there's anime is like deeply emotional, like I would say far more like they have a far greater depth of range of emotion than like I would say like American cartoons.
I think it's like character versus plot driven things.
Yeah, like yeah. I would say that too. Yeah, I would say that too.
Obviously, generality.
But essentially, like there's creators that they watch One Piece, and One Piece is like 1,100 something episodes, right? So it's a lot. But they understand these characters, but you probably, in order to really understand the characters, because they're so emotional, like you got to be kind of like a human to really understand like the full range of like what these characters are going through. You know what I mean? Because like a human like wrote them. And so just this idea that like now you have these AI kind of channels that they're giving their overview, and it's like, I don't think it's good. It's not good like content, but it's like, I'm sure whoever is operating it, it's quick for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like, Luffy doesn't like this and he likes it, and I'm like, but it's like, it's not really great, but it's like, it has like 400,000 views in 12 hours or something like that. But it's because they have the AI kind of making the whole thing, and I don't know how long it takes the creator, the person that is operating the AI behind it, in order to do all that. I'm not sure. Not long, right? So I'm not long. So it's just like, some people would be like, man, if it took me 10 minutes maybe to make an entire video, like both script, the video itself, like all the cuts and edits to all the content, and then be able to put it out, and I get like that kind of reaction in 12 hours, like, am I gonna go back to it taking me a full day to do that? You know what I mean?
This is the battle we're all going to be in, for people who are open to not even like necessarily wanting to be open, but open to having that thought process under your head You know,
Tough
similar to that. The next trend I think we're seeing is a push towards analog. A couple of products that I've seen online that I thought were interesting. One I saw is I keep getting ads for this thing called like a block. So it's like you tap your phone onto it and then like it blocks like social media pages on your phone so you can't access them until you tap it again. So it's like to minimize distractions, right? Some other things I've seen, like for instance, there's like the remarkable tablets. I have one actually where it's like e-ink and you can write on it and then you can send it through the cloud to your computer so then you can see your notes, you know, and have them typed up. I saw another one where it's like remarkable, you write on the tablet, but there's another one now where it's like it almost looks like a folder, and like you put a piece of paper on it and you can draw on it, and then that folder sends the drawing and the writing to your computer. So it's like it removes the tablet and it's still tactile. You're literally drawing on paper. You know, technology's wild.
Fun fact. So back in the day, I used to have a notebook. Okay.
Composition.
No. It was like, okay. So it was like this notebook that essentially you could write into the notebook, and then
It was like electronic notebook, and then you got like plug it in and stuff. Is it that one?
no, it's far more embarrassing. I promise you, it's gonna get more embarrassing in a second. So it's like a notebook, and you can write in the notebook. And the way that you transfer it is you have to have this app, and the app scans and it has to be in this specific kind of notebook. Like it won't scan a piece of paper, but it'll scan the notebook, and then it'll like you can open up that web page on your laptop, and you can kind of use that. But the thing is it uses this like special pen, and it looks like a regular pen, and it feels like a regular pen. It's actually making indentations and stuff like that into the paper, but it's not a great experience writing. But the way that you erase everything is you put it in the microwave with this cup of water, and when I got that, I was like, oh, I'm in the future. Like, mind you, this is 12 years ago, maybe. It was a really long time.
I remember this. I do remember the microwavable book. I remember that to erase it.
I was too excited about it.
But
then, like, I think I remember, like, because I didn't even feel that. I really wrote one paragraph in there, and I was just like, wait, never again. This is stupid. But yeah, we've come a long way as a civilization. Is what I'm trying to say.
I think you're seeing people. Yeah, I've heard about movements where like using like clamshell phones again, phones with like physical buttons.
Really?
And things. I mean, I don't know how widespread this movement is.
All right.
You know, you have people that lots of people. I prefer like physical books to, like electronic versions of things. Analog is a movement. I think as technology gets more and more overwhelming, as AI continues this push and things, I think you're going to continue seeing people looking for tactile, old school kind of things. I know I was watching a workshop or watching a video of a guy that makes keyboards, but it makes keyboards like out of wood and stuff like that for like the sound that they make and stuff. Very tactile, lo-fi kind of equipment. So that could be something you take advantage of in terms of the offer you create around your work. Similar to that, the fifth thing I see is social media alternatives. I think social media has changed a lot, right? It used to be based on connections. Now it's based on interest. You don't see posts from your friends anymore. You see posts that the algorithm thinks you'll enjoy. So it's like interest-based, which frustrates a lot of people who create on social media because they're like, I have these followers that aren't even seeing the things I post anymore.
Yeah.
I'm being beholden to algorithms and things. So, you're seeing pushes towards like newsletters, your own websites, platforms that you control, and to a degree, you don't even like newsletters, like you're operating on the email systems platform. So the email, you make a newsletter with like Gmail, congrats, you're going to get pushed to the spam folder or the promotions tab that no one checks, So, trying to deliver those platforms that you create and you have control over, so we're looking at things that are very decentralized, so that's going to be something that probably is going to continue.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's it almost feels like kind of like a cool kind of exclusive thing to like not be on social media, you know what I mean, and like kind
Yeah.
of, or at the very least have something that can thrive outside of the social media paradigm, you know what I mean?
I mean, I think at some point, from a business perspective, you need to have your own thing.
Yeah.
Because like with the verses, if like the for whatever reason, channels get terminated for things not even necessarily always for good reasons,
Yeah.
So if that happens to you, where are people going to go? How can people still find you? Fortunately with the verses, we have the website, we have multiple social platforms, multimedia platforms as well, in addition to our own like newsletter stuff. But like, if you only have your people in one spot, it's hard. I think everyone ideally wants to go decentralized. The problem with that is the only way people know about you is purely word of mouth, which can, on the one hand, it's a very rewarding way of growth, but it's also that organic way is very slow, So, and that's why people use social media, right, to hit more people at once. But that's going to be something that I expect we're going to continue seeing, creating your own place where people can find you on terms that you dictate. Similar to that as well. Again, a lot of these are interconnected to a degree. We're seeing community over attention. So as people are finding social media to be challenging because it's so attention based,
Yeah.
You're seeing a push for people to create communities. Communities, I think, by their nature, are going to be smaller. It's if it's a show, it's the people who know about the show and go to the show. It's about very very niche. The one of the things that Seth Godin mentions a lot about the internet is the internet's not really a mass market machine. Like the mass market machine was probably more television and radio, especially in like the 50s and the 60s, because 3 channels, whatever I show, automatically gets hit by.
Yeah.
It reaches 50 million people. It's very hard for that to happen today. Even musically, like Taylor Swift, Beyonce, they hit huge numbers, but they're not really even hitting the numbers that like the Beatles were hitting in the 60s because there wasn't that many options to listen to, so it's just a numbers game. So everything's differentiated. Everyone here has watched a show that none of their friends watch. Whereas that was not possible in the 90s.
Like either watch or like knew of, like, you know what I mean? Like there's like you have access to so many different like markets. Like, it used to be, like, I would even say when it comes to like anime, whenever like anime was we were getting like Dragon Ball Z, maybe Naruto, you know what I'm saying? And like now, and like Yu Yu Hakusho, like you could, Sailor Moon is in there too, but like there's like an entire other world of kind of anime that was already existing, that was like fully in the throes of like really success, that now it's like, because we just are over inundated, we have streaming, we have all these platforms, we have access to so much more that we're less connected in the things that we would necessarily share with people.
Which is, as a parent, it's like, when I was a kid, like everyone watched Nickelodeon. It's like you would go to school and
you were a Nickelodeon guy. That fits.
I didn't really watch a lot of Cartoon Network till older, and like Disney and stuff. Right. But like everyone, Rugrats, like Our Real Monsters, Hey Arnold, like these were shows that everyone knew about. But like, my 7-year-old now is watching things on YouTube that I don't. Yes, are there other 7-year-olds that watch it? Yeah, but there's a lot of other 7-year-olds that aren't. Like it's so differentiated. Like like there was a time Matthias and I shot. This is before we even really podcasted. We shot an episode just talking about Hey Arnold for like an hour. Like, but like I don't know if she'll be able to do that with anyone when she's our age, because they're all watching different things. There's so many kids shows on so many different platforms.
I feel like I think I'm always really shocked by what I would say like the people that are really big stars and stuff like that, like in like the kids, the youth space. Because again, I mean it's like Nick at Night, like in like what is that, Snick with Nick Cannon, like that's how I knew Nick Cannon from. Like when I'm thinking about that, I'm like, because he was like kind of everywhere, like with like Nickelodeon at that time, it's like even if I'm not big up on like a whole bunch of different shows, because he's just everywhere, like I know his face and like people would kind of know that. So like, but I'm very constantly like really just shocked. We were for Thanksgiving, we were over our cousin, our aunt, like Ajane's aunt. Like we're over their home, and like, you know, her kids, they're their kids, they're like watching this show, and it was funny because they're watching the show, and it's like these, I think it's like a band, it's like 5 people, and they're making like kids music, and they're like running around like in caterpillars and like these like caterpillar outfits. And they're really poorly constructed outfits, by the way. This budget is not huge, right, bro? They have like 178 million people on YouTube. It's not. I'm thinking to myself like, oh man, this is like okay, like the kids, they're like dancing around to it, but I'm like, oh my god, but it's like that is huge for them as like kids, but it's like there's like 80 groups like that, you know what I mean? Like there's like a ton of other groups that are like, you would be like, oh, like they're just dancing around and having some fun on stage, and then like they're making crazy money, like insane.
Yeah, but it's just I don't know, like I mean kids are still, there's going to be some common things that they all experience, but there's going to be so much more differentiation too. Like, oh, you watched that, I didn't watch that, I watched this. Oh, you didn't watch that, I watched
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, because the market is so big that there's like when we were kids, if there was a group that like was okay, if there was a group that sold out stadiums, everywhere they went, and they did, you like, I don't know. I don't know how many shows these people. They do a lot of shows a year, like a lot of shows a year. Like you would not only would you know them, even if you didn't like them, you would have an opinion on them. You'd be able to. But I'm like, now like there can be 20 groups that are like that, that are like, huge, but there's a whole bunch of other ones. Like the market is so much larger.
The one place where they'll probably still be unified is actually movies, because movies in theaters, there's only so many studios, you know, so it's still, you know, you still get your blockbusters and movies, you know, that people still see, but like YouTube channel, oh my god, like it's too wide. So anyways, the good news is that, again, you don't necessarily need a lot of people. This is the era of differentiation, so by leaning into your specific thing, you can find, albeit a much smaller group of people that are also into that thing. So it's about trying to find that small community and actually leaning into it, not running away from it. This isn't, I don't think this is the era of, you know, the 100-person shows and things like that. I think we're smaller, more intimate, more personalized for specific things. That aside, so some other general trends I think we're seeing, this is less about the technology stuff. Mental health. I think mental health continues to be a big topic. You're seeing a lot of athletes talking about it in reference to their playing. You're seeing a lot of people, I think, just considering it, you know, which I know that the U.S. still has strides to make in mental health, but, you know, in just, you know, being active in the international community, it really strikes me that the U.S. is probably among the leading countries that mentions mental health and thinks about it. Obviously, there's steps forward, but like, I don't think, based on, you know, what I know about my students, I don't think you're seeing a lot of it. These discussions in like in Eastern Europe, I don't think you're seeing it in Europe in general as much. I don't think you're seeing it like in Asia as much. You know, I really think the U.S. is a leader in that area, and so that could be something that maybe you can incorporate into your poetry or your art offer. I know, for instance, I was working with a poet on creating an offer before, and he wanted to create like a men's mental health group, you know, it meets once a week. I was working with another poet. She wanted to create a group for grief, you know, so these are some, I think, natural avenues for incorporating art, and there may be some other ways that you can incorporate mental health as well.
Yeah, kind of building on that, I think that like a lot of people's your art might already kind of lean in that direction without you kind of trying to do it.
I think a
You
lot
know
of
what I
poets
mean?
lean into.
So yeah, so like really no, so like it's almost like, you know, once you know, okay, there's aspects of what you're already doing that can go in that direction, like being able to really like lean into it a little bit more, or at the very so like even when it comes to like how you talk about your work, like maybe mental health is like an aspect of a lot of your poems that, you know, you're not leading with that. Like maybe you're talking about the relationship somewhere over here, but mental health is a part of like how you're engaging with that relationship. So now when you're talking about your work, or when you're engaging with your work, as opposed to just talking about the relationship, also talking about the mental health aspect that help you kind of navigate through it.
I will say that I don't want to call it low hanging fruit, but I think when people are immediately thinking about how can I create something around my art for other people, I think like mental health or like support groups is a common first idea. Not saying don't do it, but I do think that it is a crowded space relatively compared to other avenues for approaching your art if you're trying to create a community or a group. So if you like that mental health aspect, I would really try to go in super specific. You know, for instance, if it's grief, maybe not doing grief, but maybe doing like widower or widow group. You know, something that's even more specified. Just as purely an example. Another trend I think we're seeing is nutrition. You know, organic foods, people being more mindful of their wellness, different types of like diets. For instance, even think about my wife. She moved on to like a whole foods plant-based diet. You know, 20 years ago, you say that and people would be like, what does that even mean? You know, just people are thinking about this stuff a lot more. You know, in addition to nutrition, also just like fitness, you know. Perhaps there's something you can tie in with poetry for that, you know. Something to kind of think about there. I have two final ones. These ones in relation to work. Number 9 is flexible work schedules. People, I mean, it's happened for a while now where we're seeing the push away from pensions and, you know, like retirement packages and benefits. Like jobs right now are really trying to push people to be contractors. You know, it's all contract positions, you know. That's not to say you can't be salaried, but it's the general trend is if a company can hire you as a contractor, that's going to be the direction that they try to go in. You know, the age-old story in poetry is, you know, hiring the adjunct professor for 19 hours a week, so that way you can't be at 20 and eligible for benefits and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
That being said, with how the world changed recently, the last couple of years, you're seeing people really wanting also flexible work from home, hybrid situations and things like that. So that could be something that you tie into as well. You know, maybe you, for instance, you create a space for poets where they can work to like co-work together, you know, on their remote days or something like that.
Yeah, kind of create some like you kind of open up some things with regards to like maybe like when you do some kind of like maybe even like online live events, you know what I mean? Like kind of going online and maybe like 2:30, 3:00 is like maybe a more accessible like kind of venue than it used to be.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So yeah.
And then the last one, I would say number 10 is income streams. So looking for people trying to find different ways to bring in income. I mean, for instance, with the verses, with the mission I mentioned at the beginning, you know, we're trying to, I'm not expecting people to quit their jobs, at least not right now. But, you know, in that aim of trying to help poets combined raise $50,000 through poetry-based projects, then in offers, then that means that, you know, we're creating additional income streams for ourselves. And it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It might end up just being like $50 a month, you know, but hey, that's groceries. You know, that's something, true. You know, it's a little bit of gas money. So thinking about diversifying in that aim. One of the things that they mention, or people like Daniel Priestley or like Seth Godin or other people in the business world or marketing business, is just assets, just having more assets. You know, it's not just having the book, you know, but it's having also the audiobook, and it's also having the workbook. You know, that's 3 different things now that all can be doing things for you versus if you just had one thing, you know. So trying to create multiple things that you can use to bring an income for yourself around poetry and art.
Yeah. I mean, especially when we're thinking about assets, like I think about like, you know, when the thing that asset is like it allows you to do multiple other things. And so like, you know, you might have like a poetry book, but with that poetry book, because now that you have it, you can use like one poem can be something that's like launches your mental health, you know,
Yeah.
like kind of like you know, platform or what have you. And maybe something else is like, you know, you have a poem. And there's actually a couple that there are friends, like I'm friends with them as well, but they started out as friends with Ajane, Mars and Martisa, and they're both poets, but they do a lot of stuff like around like cooking. And actually for their wedding, like they had this like whole one of the wedding favors, party favors, whatever it is, was like this like cookbook that was like all about, it was like poem, like the cookbook was like the cooking instructions, but in the form of a poem for like different dishes associated with aspects of their love, which was like really cool.
Okay.
But then they also do like these events in Detroit and Chicago that are like these really kind of like, they get together like random assortments of kind of people that they know, and they essentially just put them together and they make like really nice like food, and they like read poems and stuff like that. So I'm like, because they have poems already just about the correlation between like food and emotions and all this other stuff, they're able to kind of build off of that.
Yeah. You know, diversifying. Other final things for us in terms of trends?
No, nothing I can think of.
Cool. Well, and again, obviously there are other trends that are happening in the world, but these are just 10 that I've identified that I've seen. If you have other ideas of trends that you're noticing in the world that you think would be helpful for people to be considering as they create their own poetry business offers, let us know. Put them in the comments. Keep us posted. And as we think of more, we'll let you know as well. Thank you guys for tuning in for this episode of Arts and Offers. We'll be back next week with another edition. Once again, my name is Jeff.
I'm Matthias.
See you guys later. Hope you have a good day, have a good night, and a good afternoon. Bye.